Well, welcome back, Pascale. Delightful
Hi.
to talk to you.
Yes, really happy to see you today.
And I'm looking forward to hearing, I think this is going to be an important topic, how to empower your teens.
Yes, how to be a leader as a parent. It's really, really important to lead the way. You have more experience than your teenager does, and therefore you are well placed in their lives to serve as a leader for them.
I think that is critical. You know, sometimes we want to be liked, but we're not here to be our teenager's best friend or hangout buddy. As
No.
you said, we're here to lead the way.
Yes, exactly. Well, we mentioned earlier in another podcast prior to this one that the key is first lead by example.
Yes.
So, as a parent, coherence and consistency will really be a very good tool for you. What you do and what you say must send the same message to your teenager because trust comes from consistency and coherence. If what you do and what you say, there's a disconnect between the two, then your teenager will start to mistrust what you say and what you do. And you might have confrontation coming your way.
Yes, so you don't tell your teenage, you don't talk about the dangers of tobacco while you're smoking.
Exactly. Or you don't ask your teenager to leave the phone unattended if you are always glued to it. So you have to lead by example. It's super
Mhm.
important. Yeah. And you have to recognize that when your teenager behaves a way that, annoys you, perhaps there's a behavior there that you are actually manifesting to your teenager. So try to be mindful of how you're acting and see if your teenager replicates what you're doing. And if so, reassess your own behavior and change if you can.
You know, I like that. I've heard that quite often the child you have the most difficulty with is the child who is most like you.
That is so true. Teenagers are a mirror of who we are. And sometimes we don't like what we're seeing. And if we don't like what we're seeing, perhaps it just reminds us of something either we used to behave like, we challenged our own parents before our teenager challenges us, and sometimes we have kept those same behaviors in our adult years, and maybe it's time for us to reassess those behaviors, because what your teenager tells you, we also mentioned that in a prior podcast, what they whatever they communicate to you, whether it's verbally or in their behaviors, is information for you. So if you feel uneasy about something that's going on with your teenager, ask yourself, why am I uncomfortable? Be mindful.
You know, it sounds like it goes far beyond just what you would expect, just courtesy and respect. Of course, we're going to treat them with courtesy and respect so we can expect it in return. But beyond
Yeah,
that, we're open and ready to admit, you know, we may be wrong. We may need to be the one to change and being
absolutely.
prepared to do that. What an example for your team when they
Yeah,
see you recognize you need to change and you make the change.
absolutely. And we mentioned earlier, I come from a business background, and being a leader with your teenager or being a leader in a business setting is quite the same. Um, if you want to have unmotivated employees, make sure that you are incoherent or inconsistent. Make sure that you as a boss never recognize your mistakes and don't own your mistakes. So if you do that as a parent, of course your teenager will not respect you, will not trust you. So the same theory applies when you're a parent and when you're a manager, but of course the emotions run higher when it's your teenager.
Oh
You're
yeah.
more invested in your relationship with your kid than you are with an employee, for instance.
Yes, an employee that's just for a number of years. Teenager, this is a lifetime. That relationship.
Yeah.
You may
And
divorce your spouse, you can't divorce your child.
exactly. And you better foster it and try to change the more you can, change, the more it will teach your teenager that change is possible too, you know. As I said, lead by example. And that also, in the teenage years, there are a lot of tough conversations that you have to have with your teenager. Don't avoid the tough conversations, because the more courage you show when tough conversations arise, um, the more you will teach your teenager that tough conversations are a good way to actually clear the air. You have to learn to become comfortable in an uncomfortable situation or discussions, and your teenager will respect you more for that, I believe. Um, have an open door policy, you know, going back to my business background, the open door policy that we have in companies. Is there a neutral and safe place to discuss private matters with your teenager? Because they're at an age that they don't want to share with their siblings. They don't necessarily want to share with the whole family. So, is there a time and a place reserved to share their experiences with them? Do you have one on one time with them? And listening is key. We said it, communication start by listening to the verbal and nonverbal cues. Very, very important. And if they stumble, you know, a good boss will allow their employee to make mistake, and they will make them own their own mistakes. And if they stumble or go through hard times, your teenagers, debrief with them, share the experience with them, make them benefit from your experience if they are open to it. And time is of the essence. The more you spend time fostering the relationship with your teenager, uh, the more that they will grow to be independent in the future.
I believe that. And it seems to me that by being willing to spend time with them and have those tough conversations, you're sending the message that you care about them. You are sufficiently invested in their well-being and your relationship with them that you're willing to have those tough conversations and give them your most precious gift, your time.
Absolutely. And make sure that when you go into a tough conversation, that you stay open, that the energy you bring to the conversation is one of acceptance, um, so that they don't feel threatened, they feel safe to share with you, and that they will not be judged. Judgment is the killer of any relationship, whether it's with a spouse or a friend. It's the same thing with your children. They are growing, they are becoming who they are, and they have to have space to become who they are.
Yes, that is true.
I will come back to the business analogy, because as they grow older, the expectations that you will have towards them will also evolve. Their role in the household will change. If they want to um, become better, and if you want to empower them, of course you will tend to give them more responsibilities, trust them with more responsibilities, um, but learn to communicate your expectations towards them very clearly. Let them know that as they grow, your expectations and your trust will grow as well, but it will depend on how responsibly that they behave. So there must be consequences, positive or negative, depending on what they're doing. And it's no longer time to tell them what to do. You know, when they grow older, and they are no longer receptive to be told what to do. It's the difference between micromanaging and just sharing a common vision of what your relationship with your teenager can be. And clarity is very important in their expectations of you and your expectations of them.
Yes. And I think it's tempting sometimes to assume that they have the same standards you do, like when you direct a student, when you direct your child to clean the living room, maybe his definition of clean the living room isn't the same as yours. So that's what you meant by the expectations. You're making those clear.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then,
The clearer you get, the less tensions there will be.
yeah,
And I guess as a good boss will inspire their employees, It's
Mhm.
also a good thing to learn how to inspire your teenager, make them envision a future in which, they are successful. Paint them a picture of their future and ask them about their dreams and what they are expecting of you in order to realize their dreams. It's a
Oh,
more positive conversation to have with them than just,
I
clean your
love
room.
that. Just dream together and let them know you're there to support, but you have this belief in them that they can be anything they want to be. You're there to support them, but they are making that decision. They're the ones that are planning their future.
Absolutely. And the difference between you and your children is that they might have huge dreams, but they have no clue as to how to get there. But you've got experience, you've got life experience. So maybe you can help them plan out what their future will look like, what they will require along the way in order for them to realize their dreams. Maybe they have no idea what's possible if you don't talk with them about that. Planning for the future is a very powerful way to empower your child because it's directly impacting them, and it's a big picture discussion. It's so much more interesting for a teenager to hear about what their future might look like,
Uh-huh.
what their dreams might become, than just being told, clean your room. Where does cleaning your room actually impacts their dreams, and they're at the time where they're experimenting all sorts of things and their mental space is limited. So maybe cleaning the room is not a priority for them, so
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
to
And,
be
and
conscious of that.
and while an adult may see, oh, learning to be organized will help you be more successful, but they're not going to make that connection. And far better to hold out the let's talk about your dreams for your future and
Yeah,
then bring in, well, it will help then to learn some more organizational skills.
absolutely. And notice what their strengths are,
Mm,
and try to, push them in their strengths, and in their interests, because there might be places where their strengths and interests actually intersect with the family life.
mhm.
For instance, I'm going to give some examples. If you are trying to decide where you will go on vacations, maybe the vacation destination could be chosen. You can actually ask your teenagers what they would like to do in the vacations, or is there a place that they want to visit, and just engage them like that to and involve them in the process making of the household, and see where it intersects, where their interests and the family life can intersect. And if you empower them in that by giving them more responsibility, involving them, and even start their financial education,
Oh,
uh,
definitely.
yeah, by involving them in the decision making process and being transparent about, what the budget for the vacations are, how can they, fit in some activities that they would like into the budget, and try to have their education started like that, and um, make them aware that, money doesn't grow on tree. So starting their financial education by involving them in the family objective can be super empowering for them too, because they feel like they're another adult. They feel like they're at the same level as you are if you
Oh,
implicate.
yeah. Yeah, you're bringing them into the family council and maybe even doing a comparison. So what's the total cost if we save up money to buy a car as opposed to taking out a loan and then paying interest?
Exactly.
There are a lot of lessons there.
Yeah, and if they are super knowledgeable in the IT department, if you need to buy another computer or another telephone, why not make them your consultant?
Oh,
And
yeah.
there are creative ways that you can actually leverage your teenagers' interests, in order for you to develop, the trust, and to build the relationship moving forward. Creative ways that you can just give your teenager, um, actually underline the value that they bring as a person, as a
Yeah.
whole person.
If you have a child who's interested in interior design, why not let them be
Excellent,
involved in the,
excellent an example. I did not think about that, but that's absolutely true. And it's a time, teenage years are the years where you experiment, you learn to be out of your comfort zone, as I mentioned, and you can basically guide them through that, and you can actually rediscover your own youth, if you will, by sharing common experience, sharing common activities with them that will put you outside of your comfort zone, and that will at the same time be a valuable experience for your teenager.
yes.
Um, Try to do something that you don't do usually. And if you can do it one on one with your teenager, even better, have quality time with your teenager. It doesn't have to always be confrontation and mistrust and the screaming match, you know. There will
Yes.
be times for the screaming match, but if it can have another uh, place and time for enjoying each other's company and for you to get to know who they are, because sometimes you don't even have the information, you know, you don't know where they are, and if you share a positive experience, there's a better chance for them to actually want to open up to you and share things that are dear to their heart that you have no idea what's going on in their life. They might share it with you when you have that one-on-one positive experience with them.
And we mentioned time is a valuable gift to give your teens. What about happy memories? What about memories of times when you were bonding, you were enjoying each other's company? That's huge.
That's huge. And it can be small things and it can be bigger things. I remember when I was younger, my mother used to allow me to skip one afternoon of school. You know, she wasn't working at that time, and we would go out and just shop together for an afternoon. I
Oh, how
felt like
fun.
$1 million. Yeah, she allowed me because I was having a very good school year. My grades were high. I was a responsible teenager, and and she didn't have really that much time to allow me outside of after school and everything,
Uh-huh.
because I had other siblings and she had other things to
Yeah.
do. But sometimes she would just, okay, this afternoon I will pick you up and we're going to do something together.
And
It's very fun.
it sounds like she was also wise enough to realize that there weren't going to be very many years when you were living at home. That time is short.
It's so precious. It's precious, and those are the most important years. Those are formative years. Your teenager will change, and they will change very, very quickly. They will grow up and they will be out of your home so
Yeah.
fast.
Oh, yeah.
Hang on to every single bit of good times you can have, and those are priceless memories for you, but also for your teenager. They will remember that.
Yes. Yes. I know they will.
Yeah. And finally, I will just come back to another subject that we mentioned earlier a little in another podcast, is the fact that you are not cool, and it's okay that you're not cool. Your non-coolness can actually make you cooler. If you are okay being not cool, maybe you can even make your teenager your image consultant. Okay, I'm not cool. That's great. I'm not cool. What can I do to improve my image? It can even be funny. Make me over.
I think it's a valuable lesson to, teach them to accept themselves by demonstrating it, just accepting and combined with that willingness to improve. Okay,
Absolutely.
so you don't feel like I dress fashionably. What are some suggestions? What do you recommend?
Exactly.
What a
Yeah.
fun mother-daughter activity. Let's go through the wardrobes and let's, you know, see what items go well together? What could we add? What do we need to get rid of? And I love
The
I
fact
like
is,
that.
the fact is that most times when we are actually having uh, an argument with our teenager is because we feel insecure.
Yeah,
Um,
we're
and when
feeling, we're trying to maintain that image of being infallible, perfect. And of course we can't. And of course that's going to be frustrating. And yet you will strengthen that bond if you can be vulnerable. I loved what you were saying about admit when you're wrong, admit you don't know everything, but you are always willing to move forward and improve. That is
I
a
there is
brilliant
something
gift.
there is something very important too, and that's something I've learned quite recently is to watch your language. As I said, it's the time for experimenting, and um, the words you use will also send messages to your teenager. Um, since it's the time for them to experiment and to learn and to get out of their comfort zone, perhaps you should change the way you approach making mistakes. Maybe mistakes are learning opportunities. Um, Try to reframe experience to a broader sense for your teenagers, because they will, of course, fall down, stumble, make mistakes. But if they are afraid, if they become afraid or reluctant to make mistakes or to look foolish, for instance, they will never learn and they will never grow because they will be fearful of experiencing. And it's your role, I think, as a parent to guide them through this and show them that, you know, improvement is always a possibility, even when you're a parent. And if you make mistake and you admit your mistakes and you say that you don't know everything but you're willing to learn, that will empower them to make their own mistakes, to come to you with their mistakes and say, I don't know what happened, I don't understand what happened, here's what I did, here's the result, what do you think? They will consult with you.
Yeah, yeah. I love these. I love these ideas on how to empower your teen. And what parent wouldn't? I mean, don't we have that dream for our children that they grow up to be successful, happy, contributing, and independent adults? Love it.
Absolutely. I think the goal is the goal of every parent to see their child succeed. And there is no success without failure. You just have to keep trying. It's the same as a parent. Keep trying. You know, you're not
Yep.
perfect. You do the best you can. And if something doesn't work, well, change your approach. You have to always adapt. And the more adaptation skills you show your child, the more they will learn that they can to adapt to situations and things that make them uncomfortable.
They'll become more resilient. They'll know you
Mm.
can always just move forward, just keep moving forward. It may be slowly, but keep moving forward. So next time we're talking about guilt and fear, and you call that an explosive combination. So that'll be interesting to talk more about that next time.
Fantastic. If anyone wants to have a more zoned in a discussion with me about empowering your teenager, you can always find me on my Facebook page. It's Parent Lead Coaching on Facebook, and my website should be ready by mid-July, parentleadcoaching.com. So, looking forward to talk to your audience.
Thank you, Pascale. You are a valuable resource for parents. So
Thank
you
you
have,
very much, and I'll talk to you next time.
all right, you have a great day. Talk to you next time.